Okay. Good evening and welcome to the July 13th meeting for the West Country Transit Authority board meeting. The time now is 6:31 p.m. May we have a roll call, please?
Tom Hanson.
Here.
Tiffany Grimsley is absent excused. Leon Bailey.
Here.
Cameron Saeed.
Here.
Maureen Toms is absent excused. And Chris Kelly.
Here.
Thank you. We all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda.
I'll move the agenda for approval.
Okay, we have a motion. Okay, motion second. All in favor? Aye. Okay, agenda is approved. Next item on the agenda is item C, which is public communications. This time is reserved for members of the public to bring up to the board of directors matters of general interest that may not be on the agenda. Do you have any public comment this evening? Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the consent calendar. There are two items on the consent calendar. Does anybody want to pull an item? Okay, so hearing none, do we have any motions?
Motion to approve the consent calendar.
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. Next item on the agenda is item 2, which is items for board action and discussion. 2.1 is election of West Contra Costa Transit Authority Board of Directors for fiscal year 23-24. I'll ask for a brief staff report on this election process.
Thank you. So there is a small staff report in your packet, which just outlines the previous rotations for the past number of years of how the board has filled these two positions. we do this on an annual basis at the start of the fiscal year. And, with that, there's not really anything else to add. I'll just pass it back over for potential nominations.
Okay, we have a very capable vice chair, but I'm going to just see if we have any nominations.
I would like to nominate Maureen Toms as chair and then Tom Hansen as vice chair.
Okay, so you have a motion. Can we do both or do we do one at a time?
You can do both.
Both. Okay, so we have a motion for Maureen Toms, a very capable vice chair, to be the chair, and then Tom Hansen as the vice chair. So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, so second, and then all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Oh, we have a new chair. Motion carries 4-0. I think traditionally, at this point, there's a speech. I'm gonna just say that thank everybody for the support of the past year as an outgoing chair, and then I can't wait to work with our new chair. She's very knowledgeable in this field. Look forward to learning some great things from her, and perhaps she'll have some time to give us a little comments at the next meeting. With that being said, I'm going to turn this over to our vice chair and run the rest of the meeting. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for your great leadership over the past year, and we couldn't have done it without you. So, and I know Maureen will do a great job when she makes it. Okay, so shall we move on to 2.2? Authorization, general manager procure 10 replacement paratransit vehicles. Is there a staff report?
There is, so the staff report in your packet kind of pretty much touches on 2.2 and 2.3 because they are both related, but I think they need to be separate board actions for us to move forward. So back you may recall at the April meeting when we talked about our zero emission plan, we did talk about the need to replace our data ride vehicles as quickly as we can. They are mechanically, they're certainly operational, it's certainly safe vehicles, but they are at the end of their useful life and the time that we need to replace them. So we did have a couple of different vendors come out with a couple of different options, the staff, mechanics, operations staff, drivers, even a couple of our riders kind of did a little test drive and looked at some of the features, particularly the lifts and the ramps options. We have a staff member on the MV side who has a wheelchair who kind of assess the usage, and we have also a regular passenger who often helps us out in these kind of situations, came out and looked at the options. And I think we all felt that the vehicle we ended up looking at, which is a low floor RBOC vehicle, would be a really good option. One of the advantages of this vehicle is it does not have a lift like most of our current paratransit vehicles do. It just has a ramp. So not only does it eliminate some of the mechanical issues that come with a lift, it's also a little bit easier for the drivers and the operators to function. We have the same number of wheelchair spaces that we do in our current vehicles, and we're going to go through the process of just making the interior look as good as we can with the number of seats that we can. So staff are recommending that we move forward with these 10 vehicles. I guess the one other thing to note is that we do outline the pricing structure in the staff report. Again, when we talked about this back in April, we did discuss that we initially received a grant for these vehicles in 2021, and this was the amount of federal money that was available based on what the anticipated cost of replacement of this type of vehicle would be at that time. Costs have changed pretty substantially since then. So our 82% match of federal money is no longer an 82% match. We are using additional amounts of local funds to make this purchase. And with that, we'll just take the initial 10 vehicles. That's okay. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, Mr. General Manager, thank you. So when you say it has a ramp, how does the ramp work? Is it electric? Does it just kind of go out? Or is it, do you physically have to get out and open that ramp?
I'm going to let Rob, if you don't mind. And
I like the technical questions.
Sure, most of you have seen our Gillig buses and how
Yeah.
they work. It is actually the exact same ramp, just on a smaller scale. So it's electric.
Oh.
The driver will come around to by the door, open it up, and there's a switch on the outside. They flip it, ramp flips out, kind of scooches down a little bit for a lower access. And also along with the ramp, there is a tow up system that comes with it. So for people without motorized chairs, so that we don't put excess strain on our drivers, there's like a little hook system that can come down, hook onto the chair, push a little button, pulls the passenger right up and into the area to be placed
Mhm.
into the new lockdown systems.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you. Thank you. And then, Mr. General Manager, one other question. So we're using extra funds. Did we get granted extra funds for the purchase of these vehicles?
Unfortunately not. That's not how
Okay.
the process works. And I think it's also probably worth noting that in the staff report, we do list a source for local
Right.
funds. It's quite likely that we're not going to be paying these vehicles until this time next year. So that local source could change if, other funding becomes available. The amount's not going to change, with the actual source will. The federal amount that's the set amount that we received, and there's not going to be any additional federal money for these vehicles.
I understand. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to ask about what is the average lifespan of new vehicles that we do purchase and add to the fleet?
These vehicles have a 7-year useful life. This type of vehicle, it actually depends on the chassis. The ones that we're replacing, we thought had a 7-year life, but only had a 5-year life. So this type of vehicle is fairly limited.
And the two vehicles that were from 2008, that was just sort of, they just kept functioning
They are,
going year after year.
yeah, and they were actually sedan. They were Toyota hybrid sedans, so they were, they lasted a little bit longer.
My second question is, what is our liquidation process with vehicles that have been phased out? Is there any liquidation process at all, or is it just we dispose of it?
Because there's federal money involved, there's actually a process. So we have to inform the FTA of disposal of all vehicles. We can sell the vehicles, we often do an auction, or we can donate the vehicles depending on the quality that they're in. But anything over, if we receive anything above $5,000, we have to split that cost back with the FTA and return funds to them. It's unlikely that any of these vehicles would garner $5,000 at this point. So,
Thank you.
One last question, and that is, there are two items here. Do we take them separately?
yes, if you don't mind.
This will be on 2.2. Any other questions? Would you like to make a motion?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the general manager to enter into a purchase agreement with Creative Bus Sales for the purchase of 10 Class G low-floor cutaway vehicles for an amount not to exceed $2,450,000.
Is there a second?
A second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, guys have it. Thank you. That brings us to 2.3.
And again, I think this is the same staff report, but these vehicles are replacing, as Director Sy kind of mentioned, the 2008 vehicles, which were two Toyota sedans. They were originally purchased with the intent of use on for paratransit riders, non-wheelchair paratransit riders, particularly in the areas of Crockett and Rodeo, where it was sometimes a little bit difficult to get some of the larger vehicles into. They were severely underutilized for that function over the years and have not really fulfilled that purpose. They've become more of a supervisor type vehicle. We do plan to replace them with more of a van type vehicle that will accommodate wheelchairs. So they could actually be used for that intended purpose. They are officially revenue vehicles, so they will be in revenue service and will give another option for some paratransit trips with or without wheelchairs, but with less passengers. So it'll give us more options in certainly some of the harder to reach areas. And that's reflected in the much less cost of these two vehicles.
So I have a question. So it says Braun WAV side entry vehicles. So the door opens on the side, but if you have a wheelchair, do you take the wheelchair in on the side as well?
I'm gonna again pass that one over to our vehicle expert.
I love these technical questions.
So the specific vans that we are looking at for this, they have sliding doors on both sides, but on the passenger side, it actually has a fold out ramp for loading wheelchairs. It's a manual rather than
Right.
electric, due to the size of the vehicle, of course. And then standard tie down, very similar to what the paratransits have for the wheelchairs. So yeah, it'll be much more suitable for using in the dial-a-ride fleet.
Okay, thank you. You know, my mother was in a wheelchair for the last several years of her life, and so we often had to find transport that could take her. So that's why I'm kind of interested in this.
Yeah, actually, one of the big selling points on this van for me was, I mean, I'm sure several of you seen our MV1.
Mhm.
So the layout is similar, but in this case, one of the tie down points we can use is the passenger seat can come completely out of the van. And that is one of the tie down points. So for passengers that may prefer a more, upfront view for their ride, that will be an option in this vehicle.
Right, and they can face forward, is that? Or do they face backwards?
They can face forward in the
Oh, that's
passenger
great.
position. Yeah,
Great.
it would be like sitting in the passenger seat of the van.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Would you like to make a motion?
Sure, I'll make a motion to authorize general manager to utilize the Cal Act MBTA procurement cooperative and to execute a contract for the purchase of 2 replacement paratransit vehicles at a cost not to exceed $156,000.
I'll second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. Ayes have it. Thank you. All right, that brings us to 2.4, consideration and adoption of resolution 2023-07, authorizing the adoption of the 2021 Metropolitan Transportation Commission Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan. Mr. General Manager.
Thank you. So again, there is a staff report in the packet, and then there is actually also a copy of the plan if any of you were brave enough to read through that document. So this is a document that MTC put together in conjunction with eight of the transit operators. And this was a process that went on in started in 2019 and went through 2021. It's basically just the group of operators and MTC meeting with a consultant just to develop any potential mitigation plans in case of earthquakes, climate related change and wildfires. If you did scan through the documents and search for Westcat, we're not referenced very often. So we were a very small part of this plan. I think the only references that are really made are that we can now apply for grants to address transportation related issues around climate change and wildfires and emergency preparedness response planning projects. So with approving this resolution tonight on this plan, we will actually be eligible to apply for FEMA grants going forward, which we would not currently be able to do. We don't have any current plans to do so, but I think it's good to have that kind of option in place if needed. Now there was quite a lot of work done by MTC and other agencies on this plan, and we are actually the last agency to adopt this plan. So it is quite important that we do so other agencies can move forward on this plan. And I think it's, I say that we're not heavily involved, we're not referenced a lot, there were not a lot of mitigations found just based on where our service area is and where our facility is located. But I'm happy to answer any questions that I can.
Thank you. And I did read through at least the first part of the report and kind of scanned it. And I noticed all the different hazards from dam failure, drought, earthquake, we know about landslides, power shutoffs and so forth. So, and I was wondering, so this would allow us then to apply for FEMA grants. If we applied for a FEMA grant, would it only be for the things that are identified for Westcat in this plan, or like, doesn't it not get that specific?
No, I think there's more options to actually just with being part of this plan, even though we're only identified in certain parts of that, we could apply for larger FEMA grants based on our service area and based on where our facility and our facilities are.
Right. And I'm, because some of our routes go on the freeways and across the bridge. So if there were disasters that affected those, perhaps we could apply for FEMA money for those.
I mean, there's certainly an opportunity, and I think having MTC as the main area, there's plan helps in that regard, in that it may be that MTC applies for some of those grants on our behalf. You know, I think it gives us more options.
And I noticed that WETA is part of this, the ferry service, and also County Connection, but not Tri-Delta. Do they have their own plan?
I couldn't
No
answer.
idea.
I couldn't answer that question. I was the one involved in this a number of years ago, and I can't remember who opted in and who opted out.
Okay, just
Yeah.
curious. Anyway, I guess we're fortunate to be part of this
Mhm.
hazard mitigation plan. Thank you.
Yes. I was curious, do we do a little bit of hazard? We have similar plans at my employer, and we have one for everything, earthquake, et cetera. The question is, do we partner with the cities though? So if an area needed to bus people out, in theory, then we could get reimbursement going on our FEMA forms, 201, et cetera. And then is that what this kind of allows us to do as well?
It does, yeah. And I think one of the things I'm trying to re-engage is with the county for this exact, because it's working with the cities and working with the county. And we were involved in that again. I was the person involved in this back in 2018, 2019. I've actually been talking to I guess Chair Tom's about this, that, you know, trying to get re-engaged with some of the staff. There was some staff turnover at the county, and during COVID, we kind of got left out a little bit. So I'm trying to get back involved in that, because I think it is very important to have these kind of plans in place, not just from a agency specific, but we need to make sure we're coordinating with the cities, with the county, you know, with all of those entities. So
Thank you. I think you mentioned at your last meeting that because we use contractor for our bus services, like most civil servants are required to participate in helping out during an emergency. So our staff, the team that's the smaller team that is the actually Westcat staff, would be able to assist. And I guess we would have to ask the contractor to help
Yeah.
us if there was some busing. Okay, thank you for the explanation. I appreciate that.
and I was saying, I think historically, you know, MV are more than willing to step up when asked and when needed. So that's especially our particular employees.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, we've actually had it where, which hurricane was it? We had some employees go back to, yeah,
Mhm.
Katrina, and went back and spent a good amount of time back there helping out. So yeah, MV's always stepped in. All right, any more questions on 2.4? Would you like to make a motion?
Mr.
Well-
Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the 2021 Metropolitan Transportation Commission multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan.
I'll second that.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, thank you. That runs us through all those. Now it comes to 3.0 with committee reports, general manager's report.
I don't have a lot to report tonight. I think just two items really. One is that we have been working to get our real-time departure information up on our website. So we are hoping to have that live tomorrow morning. I'll say, let's look at it on Monday. Let's not commit to tomorrow morning. Well, that is the plan. So it would allow people to go access our website, hold down a drop-down menu of our routes or individual stops and get real-time departure information for every stop in the system. So we've had the ability to offer that through the 501 system for quite a while now, but we've never actually had our own ability to have it on our website. And, you know, actually Mike and our web designer have worked to kind of get that up and running over the last few weeks. So we're happy to hopefully start promoting that and, you know, getting that information out there and letting passengers actually just look at the website and see when their vehicle is coming. So it's good to get that information out there. And my only other item really is just an omission on my part from the board packet is that I did commit last month to under board communication to expand that to include an option for board members to bring future agenda items to that. So I'll say that is the area where we would like to do that. And so that would be amended for next month. So if anyone does have any items tonight, please bring them up under item number 6. And that's all I have tonight.
All right, yeah, please.
Hey, Rob, I had the opportunity to sit out at the waterfront a night or so ago, and I got to watch the bus go by. Very quiet bus. I was a little bit concerned with the turnaround and the proximity to that home that's on the end there. That loop, very quiet. And you gave a report 3-4 meetings ago. Slow to build the ridership, but that was expected. I know our city manager is working with his team to get the word out. I was curious how ridership, if we've seen an increase in it.
Unfortunately, when we had the ransomware attack a couple of weeks ago, we're still working to get our fare box system kind of functional. So I don't have any information on the last 2 weeks worth of ridership. Or I will say, up until then, it was still, it was steady. I mean, I'll say it was steady. So we kind of got to a plateau. That's where it was. So.
The old cyber threat excuse. Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
The dog ate my homework. All right, so that comes to the WICTAC report, and that's my part. So a couple of things came up with WICTAC that were interesting. The big one is that Caltrans is going to be doing a major project between Highway 4 in Hercules, where it ties into 80, all the way up to the bridge, basically coming Skyway. And that's going to be actually starting in about a week or so. So they're going to be doing 26 lane miles of improvements, and they're going to be putting in all brand new concrete all the way down to the bedrock, putting in new rebar and everything. So it's being funded by both the shop and SB1 funding. And it's about $50 million for the work. But the big part about it is they're going to be doing, instead of shutting down at night, they're going to be shutting down for full weekends. So on eastbound, they're going to be July 21st, Friday, until July 24th on Monday. So the freeway will be shut down that entire time. So coming Skyway, you will not be able to continue on across the bridge. Again, August 4th, Friday to August 7th, Monday, that'll be shut down. August 18th, Friday, August 24th, first on Monday. And what that's going to do is, instead of 120 nights of work, it's only those weekends. So they're going to be able, instead of having to go all the way to the 2024 to get it completed, they'll get it completed this year. So I don't know, Rob, maybe you guys have looked at how that might impact service, but with the part of the freeway you don't use, it probably is going to be helpful.
Yeah, I think we're just monitoring it just based on where of potential traffic delays. You know, on a weekend it is just RJ, so we're actually not really on the freeway, so we shouldn't be impacted. It'd be more, if anything, spilled out onto the local streets. I mean, the J does go on the freeway between Richmond Parkway and Del Norte Park, but I don't anticipate it to back up that far. So, but we are monitoring it, and especially with the end and the start times on the Friday and the Monday, just to make sure. So our operations staff are there.
Yeah, and it sounds like they're trying to do a lot with the electronic signage to try to get people not even to come to that part of the freeway. So hopefully it'll work out, but there'll be some chaos for a couple weekends, but it'll really speed up the process. So that'll be, once it gets done, the freeway will actually have a lot less joints in it. So it'll be a lot longer lasting, and it'll be actually smoother to drive on. So that's good. And then the other thing was that WICTAC's partnering with the Park District to put in to rehabilitate the Wildcat Trail. And that's going to be about $600,000, $490 from Measure J and $110,000 for East Bay Parks. So that's in the Richmond on the Wildcat Trail. So they're going to be putting in trails. There was some discussion about an area that goes down below the street and it floods. That's not going to address that. It's just basically replacing the paving. So that'll get repaired in a section of that. And that's about the two big items, I think, from WICTAC's meeting. So that's the WICTAC report. Board communication. Would you like to share anything from the public?
So I have a question for the general manager. So for the real-time departure information, I'll be able to see that on my computer. Will I be able to see it on my smartphone?
Yes, just exactly the same through the website. On the homepage for the website, there'll just be a pull-down menu. There's a tab that right now I think it says alerts,
Right.
transit, trip planning, and then we're going to add an option for real-time information. So it'll just be a pull-down menu of the routes and then the individual stops or the individual stop name or number.
Yeah, I mean, this is absolutely wonderful. I'm just so pleased to have this, because when you really rely on buses for commuting and all, being able to know if something's delayed or not, your specific bus, I mean, that's really important. And then people don't get so frustrated if they know what's really happening. So that's one thing. The second thing is I did sign up for WestCat's alerts about problems, say on the freeway and so forth. And we've gotten a few of them in recent times, but none of them were WestCat's fault. It was something else that was going on the freeway. It was an accident or something. And so I found that also very, very helpful. And then the last thing I want to mention, just because my husband was talking about it, and I noticed it too, driving into Berkeley, that it seems like the striping on I-80 has kind of changed. So I contacted CCTA, one of the project managers there. He reached out to Caltrans, and they are changing the medians. They're making the medians a little bit higher so that there's not glare when you're driving on Highway 80. And then they're going to put in better lighting. So even though they have kind of moved over the striping, that's only temporary, and then it will eventually move back. And that will be completed by 2025. And the reason that interested me is because at WICTAC and at CCTA, we've all been interested in possible bus on shoulder or part-time transit lanes. And I had thought, oh my gosh, they're getting rid of the shoulder. We may never be able to do this, but I was assured that is not the case. So I'm relieved. Thank you.
All right. Any other board communications? That brings us to adjournment. Thank you, everybody. And we're out of here at 7:00. Not bad. Maureen's got to beat it next week, next week. So our next meeting will be scheduled for Thursday, July. Nope, that's us. Next board. Yeah. So we don't have another meeting. We're free and clear. All right. Excellent. So thank you very. I think we're. August 10th, back here at 6:30. Thank you, everybody. Have a nice night. Have a good July and August.